You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, we are Enterprise-Splaining, the podcast where we explain Star Trek Enterprise to each other and to you. I'm Maria, and these are my co-hosts, Jamie.
Hello.
And Bill.
Yo!
Jesus. And today we are joined by our special guest, Sue. Sue, thanks for coming back to our podcast. Please remind us who you are and why you are here.
Hi, I'm Sue. I am formerly of Women at Warp. We wrapped up 10 years this past spring. And now I just guest on podcasts sometimes. Yeah, until I find something else to do.
She's a spirit trapped in the warp field that we
trapped in the buffer.
800 years, she's back. Oh, here we go.
It feels that way sometimes. Especially when I see young fans at conventions and I'm with people that I met as a young fan at a convention, and I'm like, I have been friends with this person longer than those people have been alive. I feel like I've been trapped in a transporter buffer for 800 years.
Awful.
This is a joke I make. It's like when I was even my late 30s and even in my early 40s, I was like, I could be around 20-year-olds and be like, yeah, okay, there's an age difference, but I recognize you as an adult. When I got into my late 40s, I was like a flip switch. I was like, did a Wiggles concert just let out? What is going on here?
Where did all these fetuses come from?
That's a huge problem.
I mean, it's a problem for me, but not a problem for the fandom. Yay, young people in the fandom.
Yes.
It's more of like my own ability to tell time. That is the problem.
No. I think Marie and I have made this joke. It's like, oh, the 90s were only 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Good times. Okay, well, today our mission is a second contact. Last week, I told Bill and Jamie what happened in the Star Trek Enterprise episode Stigma.
I'm so sorry.
They have now watched the episode and are back with their thoughts, so make sure you listen to last week's episode before you listen to this one. And first, a little bit of pod business. Just a reminder that you can get Enterprise-Splaining merch now. We have Enterprise-Splaining Porthos Appreciation Society and logo t-shirts available on our TeePublic store at esonetwork.com. All the cool kids are wearing them.
All the cool 90s kids are wearing them as they skateboard and drink their Go-Gurt with their ball caps flicked backward.
Trust me, I know cool.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Exactly. And before we continue with the actual episode, we have a wild card topic for today.
What?
I know. Stigma represents the midpoint of season 2, and so it's time to go back to the 2 truths and a lie that Sue provided for us during our season 1 look back episode. And since Sue is back with us today, it's almost as if we planned it this way. So, first of all, Jamie, can you please remind us what the 2 truths and a lie were?
Yes, so the first one was the crew ends up in a tense diplomatic situation because Malcolm forgets his communicator during an away mission.
Happened.
Which did happen in the communicator. Bill and Maria, you both chose this as the lie.
Did I?
Wow.
God.
Blown away.
I went back to listen today to hear it. And Maria said, I think Malcolm is too technical and careful to forget his communicator.
You stuck up for Malcolm?
6 months ago, me is just a crazy person.
I'm sorry, Jamie. This is the lie that Maria stuck up for Malcolm.
Well, I do want to say that I disagreed with you guys, and I said I definitely believe that Malcolm would mess up his job. I was right.
You were right.
The second one was the crew ends up in a tense diplomatic situation because Hoshi gets sick from food during an away mission, which was the lie.
That was the
lie. And
yeah.
I chose that one, so I got it right.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And the last one was the crew ends up in a tense diplomatic situation because Porthos pees on a tree during an away mission.
Oh, God.
In a night in
That
space.
episode.
And then Archer also threatened to pee on a tree in that same episode.
Amazing.
So,
What an
yeah,
episode.
that was our Two Truths and a Lie. And then last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, we got our new Two Truths and a Lie for the second half of the season. So we'll see how that goes.
I just really want to know what's worse, stepping on a flower bed or peeing on a tree.
Yeah, we talked about that a little.
We did.
But the thing
We
is, with the
mentioned it.
stepping, with the Wesley's thing, that was a very small thing that you would not expect would be that big of a deal. And the punishment was very high.
Death.
Whereas with the Porthos thing, this is like a legitimately bad thing. This was like a sacred tree and they
100%.
brought a dog there who peed on it. Like, this was a bad thing that Archer did. And the punishment was just he had to apologize.
That episode is so unhinged.
It's so
A Night in
unhinged.
Sick Bay, I still can't deal with it.
You're telling me that asking a straight white adult man to apologize is not as bad as killing a teenager? Sorry, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about something even worse.
I'm afraid I cannot avoid it any longer. Let's talk about this episode.
Okay, I'm going to come in hot. I'm just going to give you
All
my
right, Bill.
energy. I like this episode a lot. I thought this was a good episode.
Okay.
And we'll deal
It's a
with this
hot
as we
take.
go along. So
I'll just give this a little bit of context, which is we've been a little worried about this episode for some time because we knew we'd been warned that it was a follow-up to Fusion, which we all hated.
Oh yeah, no.
And so, now that we've all seen it, it sounds like, Bill, you liked it. I will say I liked it more than I expected to, and that was 100% because it had a B plot that lightened up what was a extraordinarily heavy-handed main story. But it was still just fine.
Do you want me to give my impressions now or after we've had the discussion?
Why don't you kick us off?
All right. This is an issues episode. Okay.
Yes.
And keeping in mind that this came out in 22, the metaphor is extremely heavy-handed, which almost all
Yes.
Trek episodes.
Agreed.
Every flavor of Trek, when they decide to do this is what's going on in America now. This is heavy-handed and stuff. I thought that they handled it well. I thought that they made the metaphor really clear. Even Archer, naive fool that he is, expressed himself well. I like the way that he expressed himself well. This is not subtle, but they handled the metaphor well of the A-plot.
I think I know that you guys have a lot to say. I can see it on your faces. But I do want to...
I don't want to take over. I'm letting you guys talk first.
Yeah, just one little thing, which is I think it makes sense to talk about this episode in two separate ways. First, without the context of everything that we know about Star Trek Enterprise and the making of Star Trek Enterprise and the rest of it, just as an episode on its own and how it stands. And then I think there's a whole nother conversation, another layer that says, okay, with all of that we do know, who the hell do they think they are? Right?
And that is my issue with it is, as I think out of context, I actually kind of agreed with Bill. Like, I thought this was a good episode in the context of the show. I hated it. But you guys heard a lot from me last week, so I actually want to hear Sue. I want to hear what Sue has to say.
Please, Sue.
So normally I'd agree that you kind of have to separate context from the episode. But here's the thing about this episode. They did not decide to do this allegory. This was part of a 2003 campaign from Viacom where they went to all of their shows and they said, you must do an AIDS episode. It was a directive from the network.
Okay.
And this is what they did.
You mean Berman and Braga weren't just like, I care so much about gay people that we should have an episode about them.
There are quotes from them about, like, we're not here to answer any questions. We're just here to provide allegory and educate. But like the information that they're presenting is what people thought about HIV/AIDS in the 80s. This was made in the early 2000s. And there's so much more out there. And they're perpetuating so many stereotypes. The allegory is basically saying that HIV/AIDS is a gay man's disease. They're saying that someone who is not part of that community shouldn't be punished for it if they were assaulted or if they got it some other way because they're not the deviants. And they're rolling with not accurate information of the time. If this was a TNG like season 1 episode, they'd be pushing the boundaries. But this is 2003.
Yeah,
this is second season Enterprise. So much has changed, and the understanding in education around this topic was so far beyond what this episode did. It's literally insulting. I watch it and my head catches on fire because of the things they literally have these characters say. Vulcans saying, we don't condone the actions of this subculture, therefore we do not prioritize a cure for them. That's nuts. That's nuts.
No, the Vulcans suck.
I mean, but also Vulcans suck in Enterprise. Enterprise Vulcans absolutely suck.
But
I almost feel like this is a 2000 reaction to, like, we can look back at the reaction in the 80s to how this happened.
That's somewhat what I was thinking. I was thinking it was talking about what it was in the 80s, but you're right. They should have known better.
It's a commentary.
Right, but if they wanted to do that, there would have been more pushback against it other than to Paul saying, I don't want to use that defense because there's like, it should have been a bigger thing. Right. And even Archer, her crewmates are saying, tell them you were assaulted. Tell them you were assaulted.
Right.
That's not the defense. The defense is they didn't do anything wrong. Right. There is nothing wrong about this.
That was to Paul's point, which I actually thought was one of my favorite. It was actually my favorite part of the episode.
But it was only to Paul's point. Where was the rest of the Enterprise crew? Why weren't they backing her up on this? They were also telling her to defend herself by saying she was assaulted and this wasn't her fault.
Yeah, Archer was like actually rude about it. When talking about the quote unquote melders, he called them to Paul, a minority that you're so eager to protect. Like, he went along with her, but he absolutely did not agree or even really understand where she was coming from at all.
No, not at all, for sure. I agree. I think that's a problem. Listen, my expectations are so low for this. I was really, I was expecting it to be far worse, to be honest. And I will say that I was surprised and happy that at least to Paul had that opinion, because I would have guessed that nobody would have had that opinion. Like, I think it was more enlightened than I would have expected, which is not saying anything, right?
The Vulcans are literally keeping a list of known melders.
Yep.
It's so gross.
No. It's so gross.
Vulcans suck so hard.
The Vulcans absolutely suck. And also, the other thing that is, it's kind of, well, I guess they had to jam it in here because, and that now makes sense because I was reading something about it and it was like the infusion. T'Pol had never heard of a mind meld. Like, he introduced her to what a mind meld was. But here, it's like, oh, it's this known thing. So I guess they must have shoehorned that in to make it make sense for what they were trying to accomplish. And I get that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bothered me. It bothered me a little bit, but then I was like, I don't know. I don't really, obviously because we're doing this show, we have to point out when there's inconsistencies, but like if it's a good story, if they have to retcon some stuff, I don't really mind that so much.
Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, but it was a little weird that like when they asked her if she knew about mind meld, she was like, of course, even though we're like, well, okay, the last time someone asked you that, you said you'd never heard of it, but now it's of course. Also, it was a little bit back in Fusion. She was not. She agreed. She consented to the mind meld. Once it started, she didn't like it. She wanted to stop. She revoked consent, and then she was forced to continue. But she did agree to do it, which this episode definitely sort of hinges on the fact on like saying that she was forced from the like that she did not agree to it. In the end, I don't care that much because it doesn't. I think the point is that it shouldn't matter regardless.
Right.
Yeah,
but
that's
it
the
did
point.
feel a little bit inconsistent.
Here's my point: is that the writers of this show, we've talked about this before with Enterprise, is that the writing of the show understands that this situation is wrong and these characters are badly navigating this. This is a 2002 indictment of how this situation was handled in the 1980s and 1990s. I think that they are...
Maybe.
No, I don't
But
think
I don't think that was what they were trying to do.
They thought that this was spreading awareness and education.
Yeah.
Literally, that is what they said the goal was.
Okay.
And I think they could have made it an indictment, but they didn't.
And I think that, so obviously Berman and Braga wrote this.
Well,
Obviously.
they got the writing credit. Whether they actually wrote it is
Whatever.
fine.
They are owning it for whatever reason. And it just sort of feels, I don't know how old they are, but it just sort of feels like they were like, this is what I remember about AIDS. Like, it's never affected me for 20 years, but this is what I remember. So we're not gonna do any research on what's happening currently. We're just gonna talk about that issue way in the past. I would believe that they were just lazy about it because they just didn't really give a shit.
So last week, Maria, you said that you feel like this show, that Enterprise is sort of oblivious to like LGBTQ plus people. And I do think sometimes that's the case. I think like when we're talking about an episode like Unexpected, when Trip gets pregnant, I do think that no one in the writer's room at any point like even thought about the fact that like trans men exist that could get pregnant. Like, that's not crazy. I do think something like that is obliviousness, but in general, I feel that the lack of like queer characters, queer storylines, or even being mentioned as ever existing is not obliviousness, but it's like it's purposeful erasure.
I think you're right. I think that, as I think more on it, like the fact that there was a big push and there was a big expectation that there would be a queer character on Enterprise, and a lot of people thought it was going to be Malcolm, and then they backpedaled that entirely. Is sort of evidence of that, right? They're were thinking about it.
They're so scared we're going to think a character might be gay that they're just constantly reminding us. Like this aggressive heterosexuality.
Yeah.
Like it feels like erasure to me. And because of that, to then turn around and do an episode where like all about like basically gay men being stigmatized when like you're the problem, like this show, you are the problem. And it just feels so hypocritical to me.
Honestly, it makes a lot more sense now that you give me the context that they were forced to do this, because I was confounded as to why they bothered. Like, why did they do this episode? You know, it made no sense to me, but now they were forced to. Okay, now that makes sense.
Okay, beyond the meta of what they were forced to do, what actually happened in the episode. For once, I enjoyed Archer's naivete of dealing with the Vulcans. It's like, okay, you know this disease exists. Why don't you publish this information? And the Vulcans, who, again, suck,
are the worst,
are like, well, we don't approve of this. It's like, okay, first of all, there's no discussion of you collect this. We've always talked about there's no HIPAA in Star Trek Enterprise. You're collecting this information. You're not publishing. For once, Archer is taking the rational position of like, why don't you publish this information? That could help people.
As is the case for many Star Trek episodes that try to talk about an issue with the capital I, it was heavy-handed, and I think they just had, I think they used Archer's naivete to sort of say the same thing over and over and over again because they didn't have anything else to say, which is part of the problem. But
I think Archer starts off in the right way. And he confronts the Vulcans and he says, you know, why would you keep this from people? It could help. And it starts off as that indictment. but he drops it, and it just becomes about keeping T'Pol on the Enterprise. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care who he hurts or what information he gives out, and that's the problem. Yeah. Right? If he sticks to the convictions the whole time, if he pushes back against the Vulcan-Reagan administration, then he can actually do something. But instead it becomes about his friend. And once his friend is still on the ship, he's not going to bother fighting it anymore because he got what he wanted.
And we hear that in that same line that I mentioned before when he tells her, like, she's like doing this for like some I already forgot what it was. To protect the
minority.
Like some, like the way he sneers that, like it really shows he doesn't care. He doesn't care about those people. He knows T'Pol cares about them. Mm-hmm. But he does not care about it.
That is 100% in line with Archer's character, though.
100%.
It is absolutely Archer's character. So I wouldn't expect him to be a better person in that situation.
But Archer does respect her wishes. Like,
agreed.
Like,
sort of.
That was my one of my truths.
I mean, I think it's well established how much I dislike Archer. I liked some of the scenes with him and T'Pol. I feel like their relationship has grown a little bit. It doesn't feel consistent in that way, but there were like little bits, like when he got back from talking to the Vulcans, when he was unsuccessful asking the Vulcans to hand over their research, and he was telling T'Pol that he failed and he got kind of emotional. I was like, oh yeah, Scott Bakula's a good actor. We so rarely see that on this show.
Right.
When he went down to the conference, it was like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. I need to talk to this motherfucker. No, you right there. You're going to talk to me. I was like, okay.
Okay, but let's not forget, though, that he was like, why didn't you come to me immediately and disclose your illness?
Oh,
okay. Yeah. I have thoughts
you,
on that.
I have a whole thing on medical privacy.
Oh my God. Let's hand her something and test her DNA and find out if she has this disease. And then instead of like confronting her, why don't we tell her superior officer? What the hell?
The Vulcans were terrible.
I agree with you, but also, if they had done that in TNG, if Riker had a medical condition and Beverly didn't tell Picard that this was going on, Picard would have been pissed off.
No, it's none of his business.
No.
He's the first officer on, like...
No.
If he were pissed off, she would have chewed him out and say, it's none of your goddamn business, just like Phlox did.
And exactly.
Just like Phlox did.
If Riker had a condition that was degrading his mental facilities and Picard didn't know about it, Picard would have been respectful, but he would have said... You should have told me.
I actually agree with that. I think that
Phlox, if there was a problem with that, Phlox would have at some point Phlox would have said something if it was going to affect her job. But he's the doctor, and he's determined that this is not affecting her job and her ability to do her job.
I'm saying it would have been a dramatic vector.
Yeah, and I think we're saying the same thing, Bill. I'm not saying that Phlox was in the right or she shouldn't have kept it from him. I'm saying Archer's reaction makes sense to me because that is the sort of thing that a captain would be mad about.
It's again in line with Archer. Like, I believe that Archer would do that. I
also think that Picard would have been mad about it too. I think anything that's going to potentially affect the mental faculties of somebody on your crew who is that important. And again, we've talked about whether this is a military or not, but basically somebody under your command, I understand being upset, not being told that, not being given that information. I don't agree with it. Like, I think that, again, it's up to the doctor to make that call, but I can see another captain getting mad about it too.
I love though Phlox suddenly discovering medical privacy when remember
when he's like
he shared
Malcolm has a pineapple allergy here. Travis got all this other shit.
I have so many questions about Archer bringing up you fuckers, you stole her DNA off a... Oh, God.
He does this all the time. We saw him do it in 2 Days and 2 Nights when he secretly scanned that woman. But also, all Star Trek is doing this all the time. People are constantly secretly scanning other people.
That's a storytelling thing.
That is true, for sure. Okay.
Everybody let me know when we get to the Trip storyline because
I know,
holy
we'll
get there.
We have to get to the Trip storyline. So what else do we got?
Turn down for what?
Well, like, I did like seeing Archer, like, really upset on behalf of T'Pol. But the problem is Archer's upset about everything. Archer gets angry on a dime. He's always yelling at people.
Yeah.
And so then when there's, like, a legitimate thing where it should be, like, we don't usually see him lose his cool, but then this is affecting him so much emotionally that he loses his cool. But instead it's like, yeah, he's losing his cool on this, but like he does it all the time. So it's not as affecting as it should be.
Are you saying he's too emotional to be on the bridge?
It would actually be really interesting and cool if they had done it the opposite way. Like he's always crazy mad, but then when he gets really quiet and thoughtful, that's when you know he's truly pissed off. That would have been interesting as hell.
I do have one exchange written down. The doctors are up there and they're super suspicious, and it's like, and T'Pol says, "You traveled up here from the surface to tell Dr. Phlox that you wouldn't help him?" And the Vulcan doctor's like, "If you'll show us to the airlock." "Oh, I'll show you to the airlock, motherfuckers."
Yeah. I will definitely help you there.
Oh God, the Vulcans sucked so hard in this show.
Also, don't forget that they're trying to recall T'Pol basically because they think she's gay.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
It's the Vulcan lavender scare.
Yeah. Jesus. All right, so let's get into what we really want to talk about. What did we think about Phlox and Feasel in this B plot?
This was amazing, and this was an amazing counterpoint to the A plot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is why we need B plots. The show needs more B plots.
Yeah, I think it really helped.
I'm going to I have so many thoughts. I'm going to let other people talk about this.
Because we had heard about this from Maria, and we were just like listening. I was not expecting when Feasel first came on. I don't know what I thought she would look like, but she was like unnervingly sexy, and it made me uncomfortable. I was not expecting that. I was like, why is she sexy? I thought she would be dowdy. I don't like this.
She was not at all dowdy.
I was just not expecting. In my head, she was dowdy, and so when she came on, I was like, whoa, not expecting that at all.
No, because Trip was actually quite flattered by it.
I get that this B plot is supposed to be played for the comedy beats, right? But it also just super bugs me, like how, I guess you'd call it, conservative Trip is. Like, it's not about she has other commitments. It's about she belongs to another man. And when he's uncomfortable, he doesn't talk to her. He goes to Phlox.
Exactly.
And like Phlox and Feasel make fun of him for it, and they're like, "You're a silly backwards human." But they're still.
I have to disagree on one point there, which is he does try to tell Feasel. He says, This is not for me. I am very uncomfortable." She says that to her.
And then she
doesn't stop.
No, she does stop in that moment.
She does stop in that moment.
But she keeps pushing after he says that. And look, I just think, like, I agree with you that Trip is super conservative. I think it's weird.
Right.
But I also think that he was establishing his boundaries, and that he was like, this is how I am. This is what I want to do. I don't feel comfortable doing it.
In that moment, they're at work, right? You go to HR or the equivalent of HR. You don't go to that person's other partner.
Fair. That's fair.
If this was okay, I have so many topics
Bill,
to talk about this.
You've been like trying to jump in, so
let's reverse this. This is Hoshi, and one of Phlox's other husband comes up, and he's like rubbing his leg, running his
Phlox
foot
doesn't
up
have
her
husbands
leg.
because there are no gay people in Enterprise.
Right. No, Phlox has 3 wives, and each of those wives has 3 husbands.
They all heterosexual polycule.
One of Phlox's other husband comes up, and he's like, "Oh, let me put my hand on your shoulder. Let me rub it." It's like this is part of the plot. It's funny because it's happening to Trip. It is a completely 1950s.
No, Trip was flirting back. And I think,
No, he wasn't.
He was at the start.
Oh, he was. He was absolutely
and
flirting.
it was the
at
only
beginning.
scene where he seemed really uncomfortable was the foot thing. And that was when he was like, whoa, like he definitely felt uncomfortable with that. And when he felt uncomfortable, he told her that. And
Right.
I definitely also interpreted that as it was that specific thing is what he felt uncomfortable, not the whole thing. When like he definitely seemed like a little unnerved by it, but he also seemed flattered and kind of into it a little bit. And I think it's fair for her to not understand. He just
Hard
needed
disagree.
to use his words and be clear with her instead of being clear. He was so clear to Phlox about it, and he was not clear with her.
The issue is not that he's uncomfortable, right? Everybody has their own thing. He can be uncomfortable. The issue is that he went, instead of speaking to her again and saying, look, we're at work, maybe stop trying to have sex with me right now.
Right.
And instead went to her husband and said, look, I want her to stop trying to have sex with me right now. Like as if Phlox owned her or controlled her.
Right.
Here's the key. Okay, I'm going to skip to the end here. These two plots were set up to counterpoint each other.
Yeah.
This is a boundary for Trip. This is a marriage. Trip is uncomfortable with this. And Trip goes to Phlox and says this. But Phlox doesn't get angry and say, how can you possibly do this? You have a da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas the other plot is, this is an acceptable boundary. But, yeah.
But again, he did not tell Fiesel that.
Well,
and the other times where Trip is speaking to other members of the crew about the situation, they're saying, well, you can never tell Phlox. He'll be so mad at you.
Yeah,
Right?
Malcolm.
That's how it's set up.
Fucking
is
Malcolm.
that-
Malcolm.
Malcolm was 100% fucking with him.
Still, that's how it's framed. It's Phlox will be upset, and Phlox is not upset.
Yeah, and
all.
when have we ever seen Phlox get upset about, or why would anybody who has seen Phlox think that he would get, like, it's crazy to think that Phlox would
here's
be
my
upset.
note. Malcolm, as they're in the gym on the exercise bike, Malcolm says, I find her very attractive. Nice try, buddy.
The extremely heterosexual Malcolm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God. But I appreciate that this show has introduced polycules, even though they're, well, it's vaguely defined polycules, but
At least they're actually showing that sort of relationship can exist.
Right.
That you can have a committed relationship where it doesn't matter if your partner is sleeping with somebody else or whatever. You can have that, and that people in the world exist, or in the universe exist like that,
Right.
who do have that openness. I am happy to see that, because honestly, you don't even really see it that much now. We are still, even today, still stuck in a very heteronormative, monogamous world in terms of TV. So seeing something like that is still unusual in a lot of ways, which, it shouldn't be. So I'll give him that much.
This is just telling us that Florida's not going to change in the next 300 years.
That is right. That is true. Florida ain't changing.
Yeah, I just feel like TNG was in sometimes better on this too. And so it does just, okay. Also, the very first scene, when Fiesel comes in and Phlox and Fiesel do their little sniffing thing.
Sniffy thing, yeah.
yep.
Trip and Archer, their look to each other was so rude. It was the way they looked at each other, like, can you believe these
What is
guys?
this?
This is so weird. Especially, so you have Phlox there, and Phlox is a character where we have seen Phlox in situations where he'll see, like, aliens doing something that he finds really weird, and instead of treating it like, oh, what are these guys doing? That's
He's
crazy.
fascinated.
Instead, yeah, he's like, wow, that's so fascinating and interesting, and it's really different from something I would do, but I love that. Like, he's delighted by it. But instead, Archer and Trip just give each other these looks that are just, oh, they're so rude.
Look,
But again, in 100% in character with those two.
The thing about every human male on Enterprise is that they want every other person to act like human men.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
That is
there
correct.
There is that.
I think there's a difference between, I think I've said this before. I think it's fine for us at home watching the show to laugh about their funny sniffing thing. It was very funny. I did think it was silly. But in the context of the show where, like, again, these are people whose entire job is, like, go out and like, meet other civilizations to be, like, being rude about it. Oh, I hate that.
But these guys have no business being out in these jobs. That's the
Correct.
reality of it, right? They have no business doing that shit. They're terrible at it.
Where are the sociologists? Where are they?
Yeah. Why are these bros here? It makes no sense, but, you know.
And I just want to say that John Billingsley is such a treasure. His line readings in this episode,
Amazing.
When Trip, because
Humans.
Trip was being so, but when Trip goes and talks to Phlox about it, and
Oh my
Phlox's
God.
line readings on some of those lines with him, where he just sounds so excited and delighted.
He's so delighted.
Oh my God, I just love him so much.
I enjoyed that, but it's also like, no judgment. I've met poly people. Some of them are so excited. It's like, okay, slow your roll, dude. Okay.
Can confirm.
Yeah, that's fair.
And also, I know I mentioned B plots. Just, oh God, it's so nice to have. I feel so good to have a B plot. The show so rarely has a B plot. We were just talking last episode with Dawn how much that episode had to have 5 minutes of, like, them just fighting each other because they had to pad it out, and if they just had a B plot, this show would be so much better with more B plots.
For real.
That'd be much better with more plots.
Yeah.
Hey, what a concept.
Different writers, some who weren't straight white men.
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
I have a stray note here. Using the Vulcans to represent humanity circa 1980s, I found that fascinating.
In a weird way, because it doesn't fit with what we know of Vulcans. Like, it's confusing. So I actually totally forgot about that in my notes, that I am very confused about Vulcans. Like, the show has confused me. I don't understand Vulcans anymore.
But I think there's something going on there.
Right.
I think we'll get an answer on that, is what I have been made to understand, that we will have some sort of an answer on that.
You will have an answer of some sort on that. You will not have it for another 2 seasons.
For a while.
But
Yeah,
you'll
that's
have
what I've
it.
heard.
that these humans are completely naive, but that the Vulcans represent the worst of humanity from 1980 to 2000 is fascinating to me.
It would be if it was truly out of character for these Vulcans, but these Vulcans, it's out of character for every other Trek Vulcan we've seen, but it's not at all Vulcans in this show suck.
Especially in this episode.
Right, and they had to make this episode, and they were like, we have to have somebody who's the douchebags. Okay, great, we'll use the Vulcans. We've already established that they're douchebags.
I think my biggest hurdle with giving them any kind of credit on this episode and the way they present any of this allegory is the fact that they, typically they don't state their intent when they do an issues episode.
Right.
In this one, they did. And they had a directive from the network, and they said it is our goal to inform and educate. And what they did was perpetuate 20-year-old stereotypes.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make things very different, having that context for sure. Woof.
You guys, can we talk about T'Pol's clothes?
Of course, always.
Okay. After that very serious note, she was wearing those Vulcan robes.
Her meditation outfit. Have we seen this before?
The only other time we saw that, I think, was in Precious Cargo. When they were doing bad. Remember when they were doing Bad Cop, Bad Cop?
I think so.
Oops, all bad cops. I think they're look, they're ACAB on that show. So, that was the only other time we've seen her in those robes. But it made me realize, like, because those robes, they look so Vulcan. That's what we usually see Vulcans wearing. Mm-hmm. But she usually has her, like, cat suit. And then I had never really thought about it before, but I don't think I've ever seen a Vulcan ever wear anything like that cat suit, they're always wearing the robe. So then I was like, why doesn't she just...
Because she's the sexy one.
It just didn't make sense. I'm like, so wait, she has these robes the whole time. They've been in her closet. She just doesn't wear them. But we never see other Vulcans wearing like the clothes that she wears.
The only thing that I will give them is it's a ship. They have to have a uniform. You can't have like, it's the same as no capes, right? You can't have like flappy bits that are going to get caught in engineering and shit. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. Like everybody's in a jumpsuit and it has to be practical for a reason.
Vulcans on their ships are wearing flowy robes.
Yeah, but their ships are far more technically advanced than our ships.
She's the 7 of 9.
And you're climbing. Yes, she's a 7 of. I mean, the real answer is she's a 7 of 9. Yes. But she, they've still got to like climb up and down ladders and shit. You don't really like. It's a lot more, I think, active. Maybe I don't know.
No, there's no way that there's like a practical reason for it.
Maybe.
My other note was just Jolene Blaylock. What a gem of an actor. Like, her work in this episode, like,
it's
whatever
so
you think of the episode, her face always looks a little blank, and yet you somehow still know everything that she's thinking.
Oh, sure.
She will just, like, have a little twitch, like, of her eye, and you're suddenly like, oh, she's pissed.
She's mad. She real mad. Absolutely.
It was just so good. She is so good. She's probably the best actor on this show. And I'm so happy that she's on it, because doing this podcast would be really hard without her. She did really well.
You guys know David Gerald, right? He's the guy who wrote Trouble with Tribbles. And he was on Next Generation. And he, I think pretty famously wrote the Next Gen episode, I'm going to forget the name of it, Blood and Fire, something like that never got produced. It was supposed to be the episode that brought gay people into Star Trek. He will very gladly tell you that, quote, Rick Berman did not want gay people on Star Trek.
Yeah.
So just when we were speaking about the willful ignorance and outright erasure, yes.
Yeah.
At least according to David Gerald, that was very intentional on behalf of Rick Berman.
It's so shitty. Yeah. It's so shitty.
And that's why this episode made me so angry, because they're out here pretending like they care about LGBTQ plus people with this episode, when like this show itself, not only in this episode, as you mentioned, like perpetuating stereotypes, but the show as a whole is just like trying to make sure that you know that gay people do not exist in the future.
It makes so much more sense to me now with this context, because they are acting like 10-year-olds who didn't want to do the assignment. So they didn't do any research. They threw in the laziest plot they could with whatever they knew about it, and they put their focus on the B plot, which they were actually interested in, and that turned out better, right? They were like, oh, we got to have something funny to balance this out, and I want to do something more interesting to me. That makes complete sense to me now. Like, because I was so confused as to why this episode happened at all. Given the fact that they refused to have any kind of queer anything on the show.
This was the era of network mandated very special episodes. So yeah, there are more in your future.
Oh, great.
And I guess what also kind of bothers me is you have this B plot, which like they are saying like, hey, look at this like kind of unconventional family, and yeah, there's parts of it where maybe we're gonna play it for laughs, but I do feel like it very much comes down on the side of like, yeah, it might be unconventional and maybe it makes some people like trip uncomfortable, but like it works for them and they're happy, and look how much diversity there is in relationships, and they're doing that next to this other plot that is about gay people on a show that again cannot admit that gay people even exist.
And to your point, Jamie, it's look at how much diversity there can be in a relationship as long as it's heterosexual, right? I mean, these are all heterosexual relationships we're talking about, every single one of them. I mean, there's even that whole like thing where Fox is like, I was going to marry this woman, but she already had 3 husbands.
Diversity up to 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it's all about these, like, here are the rules. These are the rules here. And it's all 100%, you know, heterosexual relationships.
And everyone involved in all of these plots, they're all white people.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
My two final notes were on Hoshi and Travis. We got
Oh
one
my
scene
God.
with
Travis and the space cows. Jesus Christ.
So, like, Hoshi, I really loved Hoshi when she was speaking to Fiesel in Denobulan, because it was a callback. Like, we'd previously seen her trying to learn Denobulan with Phlox, and she wasn't as good, and now she's, like, clearly gotten a lot better. It was just, like, a small thing, but I really loved that. And I love anytime we see Hoshi, like, getting excited about, like, learning languages and getting excited about her job. I just love. We have so little on this show of people excited about their jobs, but we get a lot of that with Hoshi, so I liked that.
I know this was not intentional, but I also liked that they sort of showed the Bechdel test. Like, it was like two named women talking to each other, not about a guy, and then the guy immediately goes, "Were you talking about me?"
Holy shit.
Does it count if the conversation is in a fake language?
Right. I don't know.
One of my notes was just Travis's abs.
Yeah.
We got to see his abs
God.
again. The second time that we have seen his abs, and I am counting. So I'm happy with that. I realized, like, they use Travis in this way where we always see him in medbay. It's always Travis shows up. He has a couple lines of dialogue about something really weird that he was involved with that happened off camera.
It's true.
I finished fighting off those aliens that attacked our ship, and, like, I have this injury here.
Here are my two contractually obligated sentences. I'll see you next week.
I want a whole Travis spinoff where we just get, like, Travis's adventures, all the different ways that he's getting hurt and ending up in medbay.
The Travis Chronicles.
God, I'd love that.
And then lastly, I want to say that back when we had Abby and Chris from First Flight Pod on to talk about Marauders, they mentioned that they love this episode and told us, like, listen to our episode on it to hear why we love it. So I did listen, but I did not take notes, and it was like almost 2 hours. But they liked a lot of, like, the performances and, like, a lot of the stuff that we actually said that we also liked. But I would definitely recommend if you do want to hear a different point of view on this episode, and you're like, I need another 2 hours of people talking about this episode, you should go listen to the First Flight Pod episode on Stigma.
So now it's time for the segment we call Mammary Alpha, which is a particularly interesting, silly, or funny page that Jamie has found on Memory Alpha. Jamie, what you got?
Yeah, and Sue, if you're wondering about the name of the segment, it's because I think the first one we did was on the Memory Alpha page for breast.
I mean, it makes complete sense.
Which is an amazing page if you haven't been to it. But today I want to do a different body part. Turns out Memory Alpha has a page on navel. It's just called navel. They define navel as the navel, also colloquially known as the belly button, was a small opening on the abdomen of mammals where the umbilical cord had once been attached. I like the was, like, past tense.
Yeah, no more.
We no longer have navels, but we did in the past. But the reason I really wanted to talk about this page is one line. It's this next line where it says, some forms of clothing revealed one's navel. And then in parentheses, it has two references. Because apparently you need a reference for some forms of clothing revealed one's navel. And the reference is the TOS episode Shore Leave. I don't know, Bill, Sue, you're clapping, so I guess you guys are familiar with that. And the TNG episode The Naked Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Little Tice, costume design.
And then there is a photo of Tasha Yar. It says Tasha Yar, a human, wearing clothes that reveal her navel.
Oh, wow.
But I'm just like, if we're doing, quote, some forms of clothing revealed one's navel and Trek references, we have definitely seen some navels on this show.
Oh, so many navels.
Hoshi was wearing a crop top for like half a Vanishing Point.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal in the 60s.
Yeah.
I have been considering going in and just like adding more references, like every time we see someone's navel on Enterprise, adding it now that I have my ability to edit Memory Alpha. So I think I'm just gonna
Oh my God. Yes, please.
just for that one sentence, some forms of clothing revealed one's navel. Every time we see a navel, I am going to just add it as a reference.
Fantastic. I love it.
Until someone bans me from Memory Alpha. Anyways, that is this week's Memory Alpha.
Well, thank you, Jamie. And finally, Sue, do you have a Rikermendation for us?
Yeah, I am going to recommend that's a weird thing to say. Fanlore.org, which is basically Memory Alpha, but for like fandom. And there's a lot of stuff from especially early Star Trek fandom. The entry, though, on Vulcan genitalia is one of my favorites.
Oh, excellent.
We may need to expand Memory Alpha.
Memory Alpha. Agreed. Sue, thank you so much for joining us again and giving your insight into this terrible, terrible episode. Please tell us where our listeners can find you.
Sure. So Women at Warp is still up. You can get all of the episodes still on Apple Podcasts or at womenatwarp.com. If you are looking for me for some reason, you can find me on Blue Sky at Subspace Sue. And I actually also recently launched my own website so that I'd have a landing page, which is also subspacesue.com.
Awesome. And that is the episode. Thanks for listening. Next episode, we have another guest explainer. Friend of the pod, Chuck, will be back telling us about the episode Ceasefire. Special thanks to K.O. Myers at Particulate Media for the editing and sound assistance, to our friend David for the beautiful cover art, and to John Stephen King for being the voice of our computer. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast app of choice and tell your friends about it. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook as Enterprise Splaining and on Blue Sky as Enterprise Splain. You can also email us any comments or questions such as, will Trip ever get his rose petal bath? To enterprisesplaining@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And if you'd like to support this podcast, you can find us at Buy Me a Coffee as Enterprise Splaining. See you next week. Bye.
Bye. I have lots of other little stray thoughts, but
Go for it.
I don't know if anyone else had anything else specifically on that storyline.
Just burning rage. That's all.
It's fair.
Just some of the literal lines they have these characters say in this episode. I turn into anger from inside out. Just personally. Just
Hey, Leah, you know what else is great? This promo for another podcast right here on the ESO Network.
Wait, Sean, this is our promo for our podcast.
Whether you're at home, commuting, or simply taking a break, we have some interesting coffee tales to share with you.
With each episode, we share
Movie reviews, travel tales, relationships, pop culture, thrifting, and tons more.
We always have a fresh pot brewing for you right here on the
Have Coffee, Will Travel podcast.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.